Good afternoon and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network here live in Orlando, Florida at CPAC 2021. I am Zoe Sozo and I am here with Maj Toure, none other than Maj. You've made a name for yourself, I would say, in the Black conservative community, as well as many other places. But tell us a little bit more about yourself, some of our viewers who may not know who you are.
So I'm the founder of Black Guns Matter. We are a firearms safety and training organization. We go to where there's the most homicides because that usually goes hand in hand with gun control. As most of the viewers know, gun control is based on a very racist ideology, deliberately, and not like racist like now because you wear a red hat you're racist, but legitimate policies that were designed to stop melanated beings from arming themselves. And so we just go into the areas where there's been tremendous amounts of ignorance around that regard and inform those communities, our communities, about their Second Amendment rights, personal responsibility in regards to firearms safety and ownership, conflict resolution, and de-escalation.
Wow. Well, I would like to know, have you always had conservative ideas? Have you always been a conservative? And what point did you start to realize that, you needed to start speaking out more and taking this in the community?
I think that generally most households across America generally are conservative. I think that if you're, and I think we don't simplify it enough. When your mom says, especially if you're over a certain age, when your mom or dad says, "Hey, close my door. I don't want you heating up the street," that's a conservative fiscal policy. I don't want to pay for heating for outside that I shouldn't be doing. We want the government to pretty much leave us alone. We want limited government. I think that the translation has been lost in how we can get that demographic to understand that these are conservative values. I think we have to do a better job of not mirroring that or attaching that policy or those values to a particular party. Traditionally, it's associated with the Republican Party, but you may just be an independent free thinker and maybe don't really understand much about politics, but you're following conservative values.
Right.
So I was raised Democrat. And then anytime you start to do some self-knowledge and study, why am I this way? Why am I doing this thing? Who told me that this is the thing to be? You start questioning and looking for other avenues, and then you start to see, okay, this is an actual policy or an ideology that I'm more in alignment with. And I think once you go down that rabbit hole, everybody does it once you start being a little bit more self-aware, and that was my path.
Exactly. And now, now since we have this new administration active, what does the next 5 years look like for us as far as keeping our Second Amendment rights?
I think no government can give or take away your human right to self-defense. That's what the whole Bill of Rights was about. Explaining and reminding the people over years that a human and natural God-given right to protect your life is not granted by government, nor can it be taken away. So I want to always infuse that thought process when we're communicating about the Second Amendment. But you can have some politicians that aren't aware of the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, and they can pull some wool over the eyes of people that aren't aware of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the construct and how it is constructed. So I don't have a fear of our rights being taken away. I have a concern of local, state, and federal politicians that are not in alignment with our framework and would convince more people to operate in their own disinterest in that regard. I think more specifically, I would like to address things like HR 127, presented by Democrat Sheila Jackson Lee or something like that out of Texas. It's the most government overreaching for the Second Amendment piece of legislation that I've ever seen in my life. And I think that, we have 8 million new gun owners in 2020 alone. At the same time that, some people on the left were calling for defund the police, the general public, mostly black women who are the largest new group of gun buyers, decided to take their personal protection much more serious. But then you would say, let's now make these people felons if they don't give the government $800, if they don't submit to a psychiatric evaluation. There's 125 million gun owners in America that we know of. Do we really think that the government will get psychiatric evaluations for 125 million people in a timely fashion alone? And I don't need to have a psychiatric evaluation for my human right to defend my life if need be. So I think that we can win that culture war in that regard, but I'm concerned about people not understanding that this is a natural right. This
exactly.
framework,
God-given right.
yeah,
exactly.
It's a God-given right. So just reminding people that of that culture, and that politics becomes downstream of that culture.
Right. So I agree with you on that 100%. We have to protect our Constitution and these rights that were given to us.
Yeah.
Now, you're speaking here at CPAC on a panel.
Yeah.
What are you going to be touching on specifically? I know the topic of discussion has been protecting our freedom, exposing what the left has been doing at work, but go ahead and touch on that.
So this panel, this will be my third year at CPAC, straight. Last year I had the main stage, and it was great. I always have a great time. But this year we wanted to do something different. We've lost the conservative movement in urban America, not just because of the left said Donald Trump was racist. We didn't do the work after that. Black male millennials overwhelmingly started to support President Trump, not because he was so savvy, it's because he was genuinely his authentic self.
Right.
But then the black conservative movement highlighted some black conservative voices that the black community or urban America in general does not respect. And I think that cost us some ground there. So this panel will have, 3 solid melanated beings, female voices, 3 solid melanated being male voices. And we're going to have that harsh conversation about how we can highlight black conservative voices that are not always just lock in step with the safe talking points that some conservatives have pushed. We have to be able to, if you're talking about the black community more specifically, that doesn't mean to the exclusion or racist towards other communities. It just means each community maybe has its own specific set of issues and potential solutions for those issues. And we have to talk about how we lost in that regard and making sure that we're highlighting voices that have solutions for the black community, that the community respects, and making sure that those black conservative voices actually like black people.
Right.
So that's an awkward conversation to have, especially going in front of President Trump.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too, what will it take for the black community to start respecting and recognizing black conservative leaders? What do you think they are wanting to see differently than what they have already been seeing that's been provided?
We're being presented black conservative voices that say things for pats on the head, as opposed to saying the thing that addresses a serious issue. There's an individual accountability issue, and there's a collective issue. You have to highlight voices that are being more willing. You have people like Angela Stanton King, who's on this panel, that's going to talk about the targeting of African American communities by, the Margaret Sanger energies of the world. That's a serious conversation that we have to have. And it's not just as simple as, there should be black fathers in the household. Studies have been done. That myth has been debunked. Black fathers are among some of the most active fathers in families' lives. We got to stop saying these outdated and debunked talking points from black conservatives just to get a pat on the head. Because black people that recognize that that's just a talking point that's not actually true, not only don't respect those voices, but are actually repulsed by them.
Right.
So when we see those people like Angela Stanton King, we got the great Sonny Johnson on this panel. We have Shamika Michelle on this panel.
Yes.
We have voices that are not afraid to talk about black issues, just like if I lived in a white community, I would talk about white issues from a respectful standpoint and honest, while maintaining conservative values.
Right, because we know the issues, but what are the resolutions?
Right.
How can we resolve these issues? Right. So that's going into conservative outreach, going into the black communities, and getting really our people educated on how we can get these issues resolved, and what can we do, what can we bring to the table to better their lives.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
So for one, you can just basically explain to people in urban America how they have conservative values already, right? The best example that I can give is when the movie Black Panther came out. Everybody in urban America loved that movie. And then I'll go, okay, well, you do know that Wakanda was conservative, right? And they'll go, well, what do you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean?
What do you mean by that? Well, they didn't accept foreign aid. They had walls.
Wow.
They had security. They believed in being armed. And they kind of handle their problems themselves. Now, if they need some help, or someone may need some help through a meticulous thought process, we'll every so often go out of our borders to assist, but we're not policing the rest of the world.
Wow.
And if you like the Wakanda theme, as an African American, as a melanated being, that is what a conservative nation looks like.
Wow.
Now, the beauty of that is, being conservative doesn't mean you gotta like whitewash. Doesn't mean you gotta just be like, oh, white is right and black is wrong. That is a false ideology. And the black conservatives that are willing to stand on that square and explain it will do more for not only race relations or the conservative movement. We actually will win presidential elections. Urban America would have won a second term for President Donald Trump. So when we explain to these communities, our communities, that these are what conservative values are, regardless of your political party, I don't need you to change your political party right now. I just need you to understand conservative values. You're going to go down that rabbit hole and you're going to change your political affiliation. It's part and parcel, you know? So that's one of the biggest, solutions of how we can express that to people in a manner that's very simple, in a manner that's not calling you're a slave, you're on a plantation.
Right.
I'm not going with anybody that's calling me a slave. Even if I do have a certain level of a slave mentality, if I don't understand it, it just comes off rude. You know, so these are some of the areas that we can have better PR in our messaging and get more people on board.
Exactly. Well, I love what you're doing. I especially love the spin that you took with Black Panther movie and showing people how, if you like what you see, but this is why it works and this is why you like it, you know? Well, Maj, thank you so much for your time with us, and tell our viewers how they can follow you and keep up with what you're doing.
Yeah, everybody can hit us up on social media, at Maj Toure, MajToure. If you want to support the work, we raise the money and give it away for these classes across the country to keep the financial barrier to entry free. If anybody agrees with some of the work that we're doing, GoFundMe.com/Black Guns Matter. If you're going through something, message me. Let's talk about it. We got 22 vets killing each other, killing themselves every day.
Wow.
So if you're going through something, you're having some mental issues, reach out to me. Let's chop it up. I don't care what time of day it is.
I love that. Less government, more community. Well, we are here live in Orlando, Florida at CPAC 2021. Stay tuned for more interviews and more to come. And thank you so much for watching.